Okay, welcome back to this series about setting up your own church website in Squarespace. In this video, we're actually not going to get into Squarespace at all. In fact, this video applies for any kind of church website. This is something that everybody that's setting up a church website needs to do first. Now, I'm not going to talk about design at all. This does have nothing to do with the design of your church website. In fact, I would say that the stuff that we're going to talk about today is 10 times as important as the design of your church website. Think for a second about why you have a church website. What's the purpose of a church website? I would say, based on my experience doing lots of church websites and being a pastor, that the main purpose of a church website is to present your church well to potential visitors. People are going to go on Google and they're going to look up your church these days long before they ever step foot in the front door. Someone said that the church website is the new church foyer, and I cannot agree with that more. That is exactly right. The most important thing is that when they get to your church website, not that it looks fantastic, that's important, but that the content that they need to find out about your church is there. And so before you ever open Squarespace, before you ever talk about design or anything like that, you need to have your content ready. In my experience, the biggest problem setting up church websites for people is that they don't have their content ready. They haven't even thought about this stuff before they start with the church website. And so what I suggest you do is I suggest you open up a Google Doc, and there are 10 things that you're going to need to get started. And so I'm going to go through each of these 10 things, and I will share this Google Doc with you when we're finished. But just open up Microsoft Word or open up a Google document and go through these 10 things. Now, the first thing is the homepage pitch. And what I mean by this is what text do you want to be there that the people that visit your homepage see first, okay? Now, let me tell you what I don't think you should put there. The thing that most commonly people do is they have this little blurb that says, "Hi, and welcome to our church's website, ... And it's a cute little folksy note from the pastor. I don't think anyone reads those. I'm just going to be honest. I don't think anyone reads those, okay? What you need to do is you need to very, very quickly and shortly and sweetly describe what makes your church different and what makes your church special. So let me show you what we've done on my church. My church is very, very simple. We try to stick to simple stuff. And so I have worshiping God, studying God's word, serving our community, seeking to make disciples of Jesus Christ, and then a big button that says plan a visit. That's very important. That's called the call to action. And I'm just going to say that should probably be the call to action on every church website. So I'm not putting that on my list. That's something that probably needs to be the call to action on your church website. But then as you scroll down, it says, and this is what you need to write, something like this. It says, "We believe in simple church." And I talk about how at our church, we just try to stick with the basics. Simple Bible preaching, going through books of the Bible, simple hymns and worship, and simple fellowship. That's it, okay? Hopefully, if nobody goes any further, they should be able to read this and very quickly even just scan this and figure out what our church is all about. Our church is a church that just tries to stick with the basics. And if they visit my church, they're going to find that that's the case. That they're going to find that we don't get into, any kind of monkey business. We just try to stick with the Bible, stick with congregational singing, and just major on those things. Now, that your church might be totally different. Your church might have lots of other things going on. Your church might have a totally different emphasis, and that's okay. But what you need to do is you need to write a short, let's say, 400 word or less summary of your church with lots of headings and make that a pitch on your homepage so that people can go to your homepage and very quickly, figure out what is your church all about? What can your church do for them? And what is it going to be like if they visit your church? So the homepage pitch is the first thing. The second thing you need is you need your order of service. So, or rather, I'm sorry, let me change that. Your service schedule, okay? Not your order of service. That's something totally different. Your service schedule. So Do you have Sunday school at 9:30, Sunday morning at 10:30, Sunday evening at 6 p.m.? Do you have a midweek service? Do you have other things? People are going to be looking for that because, again, they're looking to visit your church, and that's really, really important information when you're visiting a church is when are the actual church services. And so this is something that when we get to the actual church website, we want to be all over the place because this is an important piece of information. This one's easy. Takes just a few seconds. The next thing is contact details. So people want to know your address. People want to know your phone number so they can pick up the phone and call your church. People want to know an email address where they can send questions. Do you have a Facebook page? Do you have a Twitter page? Anything else like that? Just write it down on a Google Doc so that you're ready to use it and have it available when it comes time to laying out your site. So that's number 3. The fourth thing is a plan a visit page. Now, the plan a visit page is going to be very similar to the homepage pitch. It's just going to be explaining, maybe in a little bit more detail, what your services are like and the kind of information that you want people to have if they're going to visit your church. And so, again, I'll go to my church website here, and I'll click Plan a Visit. And you'll see I've got some pictures, but mostly I have got some information about visiting our church, what our services are like, what we have for children. That's a very important thing to put on there. When we have nursery, if we have other programs for children, and then our location. It's simple. It doesn't have to be very much, but maybe you have more elaborate stuff going on at your church. A great example of this is LancasterBaptist.org. LancasterBaptist.org is probably one of my favorite church websites, and they do a really good job. They've got this visit button right on the homepage, and when you click it, they have this nice long page with lots of information about their church. What I would suggest doing is before you start on your website, go find a bunch of churches that you like, that you think have impressive church websites. Find their Visit Us page and write your own. Make sure it has lots of headings because that's how we're going to separate it. People will scan that before they'll read it. And just write a Visit Us page. Might take you an hour or so, but put some time into it. All right? The next thing that you're going to want is you're going to want a statement of faith. People want to know what your church believes. Now, you don't necessarily have to type this out into Google Docs. Maybe you already have a statement of faith that's a Word document, or maybe you have a statement of faith that's a PDF. Maybe it's hosted somewhere else online. It's not important that it is part of your website. It's just important that people can get to it. Most people aren't going to read this, but the people that are looking for this, that's very important. And so have some kind of a statement of faith ready to go, available, put someplace where you can find it before you even start with your website. The sixth thing is you're going to want to have the bios for your pastor and your staff if you have a staff. So, for instance, on our page, I can go here and we can click About Us and click the Our Leadership button. And it's got some information about me, where I went to college, what I did before I became the pastor there, how long I've been the pastor there. It's got some information about our youth pastor, Adam, his history, his background, what he's into. You're just going to have that together, have email addresses for the pastor and for the staff, have social media links, phone numbers if you want to share that. You just want to have that together and write that out before you ever even get into Squarespace or whatever you're doing your church website in. The seventh thing you need a description of your church's ministries. So again, on our church website, you can click on ministries, and I've just got 4 on here: Sunday School, Patch the Pirate, Mothers of Mattoon, and Classic Christians. And you can click on one of these and you'll find a picture, you'll find logos, you'll find who the leader of the ministry is, when they meet, what they do. You want to write that out for each of the ministries of your church. So if your church has Sunday school, if your church has other programs that are going on, you're going to go through and you're going to want to write all of that out. Not in Squarespace, just in a Google Doc. Just write it out in Microsoft Word. Whatever program you use to do your writing in, write it out there. Get it down on paper before you ever open Squarespace. It's going to make it 1,000,000 times easier. All right, back to our thing here. The next thing is photos, and this is a big one. This is a huge one. You need to have photos of your church before you ever get into the website thing. You need to have somebody, look, you don't need to have a professional photographer take these photos. Look, you have an iPhone. Somebody in your church has an iPhone, and that iPhone camera is better than a $2,000 camera from 10 years ago. Just take some pictures. Take some pictures of your church shaking hands. Have someone take a picture of you preaching. Have somebody take some pictures of your fellowships and different things that you do in your church, different church activities. Collect those. Have a collection of those ready to go. Those are going to make your website seem so much more authentic. Okay, there are great sites that you can go to and you can find stock photography. Like you can go to christianpics.co, and very inexpensive place to find very good Christian stock photography. I can't recommend it enough, okay? But on your church website, people need to see you. They need to see what your church is like. You don't want to present your church as some big, huge, super nice place on your website, and then people show up and find out, that there's 10 people there and that the building hasn't been updated since 1962. Okay? If your church, it's quite possible that there's 10 people in your church and your building hasn't been updated since 1962, and you still have awesome stuff to share with your community. But what you don't want to do a bait and switch. You want it to be there, right there where people can see it and have that available for people. Okay? So just get some pictures together. 10, 15, 20 pictures of your church worshiping, the outside of your church. As many pictures as you can get. It's going to make the process of having a church website that much easier. All right. The 9th thing is a list of upcoming events for your church. This one isn't as important as the other stuff. If there was one on the list that you could skip, this one is probably it. But people want to see that there's stuff going on at your church. And so when you go to My Church, again, you can click on Events. And you can see that we have an Ark Encounter and Creation Museum trip coming up this weekend. That we have a family revival and a fall family picnic coming up. Okay? We try to do a church event at least once a month. And you probably are much the same. You probably have things going on in your church, things that are coming up, special meetings, that kind of stuff. Just have a list of those things with a little bit of detail about each one. It's going to make the process of setting up your church website that much easier. And then the last thing is any other about pages that you have. So if you have a page, if you have in your mind that you want to put some information about the history of your church, if you want to write up some details about your location, about your vision, your mission for the community, whatever it is that you want to write, you want to have those pages set up and ready to go beforehand. Get these 10 things together. Again, don't go to Squarespace, don't go to WordPress, don't go to whatever you're using for your church website. Just open Microsoft Word or open Google Docs and write this stuff out. Take a day or two before you go any further and write this stuff out, get this stuff together. I promise you it's going to make the process of getting your church website done 1,000 times easier. And your church website is going to be much, much better for you taking the time to do this stuff than it would have been had you just opened up the site and started with the design. Get this stuff first. You got a list here of stuff you need. Again, I'll share this in the notes to the video, but this will really, really help you.